Madam Chair, council members, and participants, we are now live.
Thank you so much for your help. Good afternoon, and before we begin the public hearing, I would like to make the following announcement. Due to the continuing threat of public health from COVID-19, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible, and instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Daily News, Inquirer, and Legal Intelligentsia prior to the hearings and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come, and Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are in attendance will please indicate that you are present when your name is called, and also please say a few brief words when responding so that your image will be displayed on screen when you speak. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Gautier. Councilmember Brooks.
Good afternoon, I'm present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Jones. Councilmember Sanchez.
Madam Chair, I'm present.
Councilmember Thomas.
I'm present.
And Chair Bass.
Yes, and I am present as well. And thank you to all. A quorum of the committee is present, and this hearing is now called to order. And I also see that we've been joined by Councilmember Gauthier. Thank you, Councilwoman. This is the public hearing of the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs regarding bills number 220366 and resolution number 220474. Madam Clerk, will you please read the title of the bills?
Bill number 220366, authorizing the Commissioner of the Department of Parks and Recs on behalf of the city to execute a lease with CP 2023, a Pennsylvania nonprofit corporation under which CP 2023 would design, construct, operate, maintain, and repair a museum on the southerly side of Ben Franklin Parkway between the Vine Street Expressway, 21st Street, and 22nd Street to display works of art by Alexander Calder and the Calder family of artists, all at no cost or expense to the city, and exempting the lease from the requirements of the Philadelphia Code, Chapter 15-100, regarding parks and outdoor spaces, all under certain terms and conditions. And resolution number 220474, approving the rebuild project statement for fiscal year 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023, pursuant to bill number 170206.
Thank you. Before we begin to hear testimony from the witnesses we have for today, everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this public hearing is being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for the questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this purpose. Before I call on the clerk to call the first panel, would any of my colleagues like to make any opening comments? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, would you please call the first panel of witnesses we have to testify on bill number 220366?
Witness Aparna Palantino, the Deputy Commissioner for Capital, Infrastructure, and Natural Lands Management from Parks and Rec. Peter F. Kelson, partner of Blank Rome LLP. Jane Parkingham, General Counsel of Calder Foundation. Val Guy, Deputy Director of Audience Engagement of the Barnes Foundation. And that concludes panel 1.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. I believe everyone is connected and ready to proceed. Please state your name for the record in the order in which you were called and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair Bass and council members. My name is Aparna Palantino, and I serve as the Deputy Commissioner of Capital Infrastructure and Natural Lands at Philadelphia Parks and Recreation. I'm pleased to appear before you today on behalf of the department in support of City Council Bill number 220366. The bill authorizes the City of Philadelphia through the Department of Parks and Recreation to enter into a long-term lease with CP 2023, under which CP 2023 would design, construct, operate, and maintain a museum building on the southern side of the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, across from the Barnes Foundation building. The new facility will display works of art by Alexander Calder and the Calder family of artists. The Calder family has a unique connection to Philadelphia. 3 generations of the family created the sculptures on City Hall, the Swan Fountain at Logan Square, and the large mobile, the Ghost, at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. So it is especially appropriate to honor the Calder family with a building dedicated to display of their artwork. The Calder Philadelphia project will provide an exciting new experience for visitors to the Benjamin Franklin Parkway and continues the city's work to improve the parkway's public realm. The new building will be small, just 19,000 square feet. It was designed by the award-winning architectural firm of Herzog and de Meuron to be a quiet, contemplative space where visitors can take time to enjoy the works of art on display. The building will be constructed on a triangle of parkland located between the Vine Street Expressway and 21st and 22nd Streets, across the parkway from the Barnes Foundation. The building design makes creative use of this site. Of the site with below ground level galleries opening into beautifully landscaped outdoor garden rooms featuring Alexander Calder sculptures. The parkland surrounding the museum will contain gardens designed by the world-renowned garden designer Piet Oudolph. The gardens will be open to the public and include pedestrian walkways, seating, and outdoor sculptures that will turn previously underutilized parkland into a beautiful destination for all parkway visitors. The Calder Philadelphia project was created and will be managed under an innovative structure created by CP 2023, the Calder Foundation, and the Barnes Foundation. Parks and Recreation is requesting that City Council approve Bill number 220366 to permit Parks and Recreation to enter into a 99-year lease with CP 2023 in the form provided in Exhibit A to the bill. The lease term is commensurate with the term the city provided to the Barnes Foundation and appropriate for the level of capital investment in the project. The operating term of the lease agreement begins when the lease document is executed and certain conditions have been met. Among those conditions is that CP 2023 develop a public access plan approved by Parks and Recreation's Commissioner that assures that individuals of all financial means have affordable access to the Calder galleries. CP 2023's approved public access plan includes free admission for children 12 and under, free admission for high school students through STAMP, students in museums in Philadelphia, and reduced admission fees for youth aged 13 to 18. Access card holders will receive free admission simply by showing their card, and CP 2023 will also have a dedicated day each month with free admission to the galleries and programs. CP 2023 submitted an approved economic opportunity plan that outlines its goals for participation of minority, female, and disabled-owned business enterprises in the construction, maintenance, repair, and operation of the building. The lease agreement does not impose a financial obligation on the city at any time. It requires CP 2023 to establish through the Barnes Foundation a restricted endowment which will be dedicated to the maintenance and repair of the building and support of CP 2023's operations and programs. It will help assure that the museum has adequate financial capacity throughout the term of the lease agreement and beyond. I appear before you this afternoon to pledge the Department of Parks and Recreation support for this legislation and respectfully ask that the committee move it forward. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you for your testimony. And we're going to hold questions until the end. Can we have the next speaker? Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Peter Kelson, on behalf of CP 2023. I'm delighted to appear before you this afternoon in support of Bill number 220366. Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'll be brief. Written testimony has been submitted to the committee on behalf of the Calder Foundation, a letter from Alexander Calder, a letter from Calder, Philadelphia, was submitted, signed by the chair of the board, Marcia Perlman. And finally, I was pleased to provide the committee this morning with a letter from the Logan Square Neighborhood Association, signed by Dennis Boylan, the president.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
You were breaking up. I'm sorry, but I hear you now.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. And finally,
right.
I'm pleased to advise that a letter of support has been submitted to the committee by the Logan Square Neighborhood Association, Dennis Boylan, their president. Members of the committee, I'll be brief. This is a historic moment for the city of Philadelphia and for Calder Foundation and all of our residents and visitors. This opportunity is unique to Philadelphia. This proposal for Philadelphia marks the first time that a building and grounds are being commissioned specifically to display Calder's work. And I think that's a monumental achievement, one that the city has worked tirelessly with us to achieve. I would point out very briefly, if you stand on the site and you look in virtually every direction, you will see a representative piece of art from the Calder family, whether it's on top of City Hall, whether it's at the Swan Fountain, and whether, as Aparna said, you turn a little bit behind the Art Museum area. This opportunity is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and we urge your support to allow us to enter into this lease, begin the entitlement process, and create another destination, another cultural destination for the city of Philadelphia, and continue to infill, if you will, the Parkway and make it the gem that it is currently and buff it even more. So thank you very much, members of the committee. Again, we are happy to answer any questions that the committee has. We're standing by with representatives from the foundation, from the Barnes, and CP 2023. Thank you again.
Thank you for your testimony. And can we have our next speaker? Please state your name and proceed. Denise, can we go, Madam Clerk, can we go back to the, okay, is it Jane?
Sorry, I think I accidentally turned off my camera instead of turning on my mic. Members of the committee, thank you so much for having us here today. I think my colleagues in support of this, Aparna and Peter, have already spoken really eloquently on all of our support and enthusiasm and the work we've done to shepherd the project through to this state. As Peter has mentioned, our president, Sandy Rower, has provided a letter in support. I, unfortunately, am the only one of the foundation who could make it today since Sandy is traveling at the moment. So I am here to show our great enthusiasm for this project. As Peter said, it's the first time we're attempting something like this. I'm maybe not as wonderful a catch as Sandy is, but I will do my very best to answer any questions you may have. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. And I believe there was one other speaker, Madam Clerk.
Val Guy.
Of course.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman. It's actually Valerie Gay.
Valerie.
I am the Deputy Director of Audience Engagement and the Chief Experience Officer at the Barnes Foundation. I actually don't have prepared comments, but I registered so that in case there were any questions, particularly about the CP 2023's plans for community engagement, I can talk about that work that we already do at the Barnes, as well as what our intentions are for the community and the CP 2023 project.
Okay, well, thank you for your testimony. And I'm going to open it up for questions from members of the committee, because I believe that was the entire panel. Madam Clerk, please correct me if I'm incorrect on that. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're correct. That was it for the panelist.
Okay, so I do have a question, and there's so much negative news that this is something really good that's going to happen for the city and really exciting. I'm excited about it already. I think that this just any good news is welcome, particularly these days. And so I think that this is going to be very much a welcome addition to the Parkway and to the city of Philadelphia. My question, though, is and Val, I don't know if this is probably more in your department, but can you talk about, and actually I'd like to really get a weigh-in from Peter and Jane as well, if you could talk a little bit about how this will relate to folks in the communities, because you have a lot of folks who really never leave the neighborhood. And so coming down to the Parkway is really just not something that they do. And so how will you connect with that sort of population? Will you have a presence in our neighborhoods, particularly underserved neighborhoods, and maybe in our schools, or what kind of connection can we expect in those departments?
Yes, the answer is we will have presence in communities, particularly underserved communities. This is actually extending the work that we already do with the Barnes Foundation. We are currently, I think, on year 5 of a long-term relationship where we're embedded in communities in West Philadelphia, as well as in parts of South Philadelphia with partners like People's Emergency Center and small businesses around West Philadelphia, and the Fuentes de Salud, where we work with preschoolers, and we've been doing that for about 5 years also. We see that we have the ability to create relationships where people are. We become good guests in their homes, if you will, and then we invite them to our homes. And so we have these iterative processes where we go out, we make relationships, have very deep-seated relationships, bring people back to the Barnes, and then we go back. We don't let them go. So Aparna mentioned the community passes, and actually she mentioned the access pass. Well, one of the ways that we've been able to, again, go where people are and bring them back to us and have them continually come back by eliminating the barrier of entry, if you will, is creating a community pass. Think of it as a community membership card. So folks either who've already engaged with us in their home sites, in West Philadelphia, South Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, they will receive a card, and we don't give it to them until we know that we've created a relationship, because otherwise it feels very transactional. With folks with access cards, unlike folks where we go to visit them, they are self-selecting to come to us. We then trade that access card, or say to them, you can continue to use your access card, or you can receive one of our community membership cards. What that card actually allows them to do is to bring up to 3 people with them for free to enter the galleries, enter the museums, and they can do that for up to a year. They have the same benefits as staff do for discounts in the shop, as well as all of our concession stands and the restaurant. And so it's our way of saying to our community, we don't want there to be any barriers. We want you to come in, and whenever it's possible, we provide transportation from the site, home sites, to the Barnes, and CP 2023 is an extension of that work.
Okay, excellent. What was the other question I had for you? Is that the same as the There was a card that City Council, I had worked with the Office of Arts and Culture on having a card. If you receive public assistance, then you automatically got a card where you got like a $1 admission, I think it was, or free admission even to some of our sites on the Parkway. Is that the same thing?
It is the same thing, but expanded, if you will, because we've always been free. So for most of the museums, initially when it started, there was a $2 admission. And so for each person, and I think children might have been free. And we decided from the very beginning that we wanted to have this be free access. About 3 years ago, we doubled down and extended the number of people who could actually come on one card, as well as providing opportunities for the discounts in the shop and the concession stands. And I should say one more thing, because Barnes is also a world-class arts education institution. We also provide scholarships to our classes. And so the goal is really to eliminate any barriers to entry. We want anyone who is interested or even just curious, like what's in that building, to want to come in and feel that they are a part of this amazing art.
Fantastic. I see Peg I believe she's from the Barnes, also has her hand up. Peg, did you want to make a statement?
Yep. Good afternoon to the community.
Afternoon.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can hear and see.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you. The only thing I would add to the comments that Val made is that our relationship with the School District of Philadelphia and its programs are very important. So we also present curriculum-aligned programming within the Barnes for grades for pre-K, 3, 5, and grades 3, 5, and 7, where we visit the students in their school, we bring them to the Barnes, and then we go back and visit them in the school. And so that sort of deeper relationship than just a one visit and leave is really an important part of the work that we do. And one of the things that we're evaluating is the longitudinal impact of students' connection with art as they go through their school year. So that sort of philosophy around education will also be extended to the Calder project. So we're very excited about, and we also try and make sure that the work that we do is curriculum aligned for our students. So it's really it's really a very deep program.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And does anyone else on the committee have a question for the group? Any other questions? Kyle? Oh, okay. Councilwoman Gauthier.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a comment. Thank you for those important questions. It's important to me, too, that we make sure that our community members have as much access and connection as possible to our cultural assets. I just did want to just say how glad I am that Val is in this role. She's a resident of my district, and I have seen firsthand her commitment on this issue. And I just also wanted to speak to how, I've seen her work in our community in Southwest to make sure that youth were connected to the arts as a way of growing, the things that they're exposed to, but also as a way of addressing violence in our communities. So if anybody is committed to this work as well. So thank you for those questions, but I just wanted to give her a shout out.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. Jamie's looking out for a voter. I understand. Any additional questions from my colleagues? Questions or comments? Okay, I don't see any. So we're going to move on to the next panel. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Madam Clerk, if you could connect the next panel.
Madam Chair, before we do that, if I could just say one quick thing, we would
certainly
respectfully request a suspension of the rules of council to allow this matter to move forward expeditiously. Thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, panel 2, Rebecca Cornejo, Executive Director of the Neubauer Family Foundation, Deborah Hayes, and Jim Baker, President of Baker and Company, LLC.
All right. So I see we have everyone on board. If you could please go in the order in which your name was called, state your name for the record, and proceed with your testimony. Hello, Jim Baker. I have to say that.
Hello, Councilman.
So if we could have you state your name in the record for the record and proceed. I believe Rebecca, I think you might have been first.
Sorry, good afternoon. I'm Rebecca Cornejo. I'm the Executive Director of the Neubauer Family Foundation, and our organization has been among the philanthropic partners in the city who are committed to supporting this project. I'm mostly here just to answer questions and to state how enthusiastic we are about this project, and to let you all know that the full project budget, as well as most of the endowment, has already been raised. So it's in a very strong financial position even before we break ground on the initiative. I'm happy to answer any other questions, either about why we're involved or about how the project is funded.
Okay.
Good
Thank you
afternoon.
very much for your testimony.
Chairwoman Bass and members of the committee. Jim Baker, I'm the president of Baker and Company, LLC. We are diversity consultants for a number of institutions in the city of Philadelphia. We are the Calder Project's EOP consultant and have worked with the Commerce Department to craft an EOP for the project, and am engaged right now in monitoring professional services and other project-related activities. We bring a deep depth of experience in doing this work. We've done billions of dollars of projects in the city of Philadelphia, and we'll bring that expertise and knowledge to this project to help it meet the goals that have been laid out.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Baker. And Ms. Hayes, if you could state your name for the record and proceed.
Hello, I am Deborah Hayes, and I am a member of the board of CP 2023, and I am here just to let the committee and the chair know how interested I am in this project, and as a board member. Hello?
I can hear you now. I was having some difficulty hearing you. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity, and to really, I'm here to just show my support as a board member to this process. So thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Any questions from from my colleagues in council? No? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to.
Okay. Councilman Johnson?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the hard work of Mr. Peter Kelson and Mr. Jim Baker. Knowing the hard work that they have been doing as it relates to these particular projects, just giving a shout out. And also I saw my good friend, Ms. Val Gay, also who will be testifying as well. That's all pretty much, Madam Chair. Sounds like a pretty good project.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. And okay, I'm sorry. There being no further witnesses or questions from the committee, clerk, will you please call the first panel of witnesses that we have now to testify on resolution number 220474. Thank you, everyone on the previous panel for attending today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We have Ms. Kira Strong, the Executive Director of Rebuild, and also available for questions, Raymond Smergelio, the Chief of Rebuild, Angela Dixon, the Deputy Director of Design and Construction of Rebuild, and Alicia Herring-Miller, Deputy Director of Diverse Business and Workforce Development of Rebuild.
Very good. And good afternoon, Kira and company. I see you're all connected and ready to proceed, so please state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Sure. Thank you, Councilwoman Bass. Good to see you. Kira Strong, Executive Director of Rebuild. Okay. So good afternoon, formally, Madam Chair, Cindy Bass, and members of City Council. I'm Kira Strong, Executive Director of Rebuild. I'm joined today by the Rebuild team, as aforementioned, and I'm here to present testimony in support of Resolution number 220474, approving Rebuild's project statement. I am pleased to be here today to provide an update on Rebuild's progress, and especially to discuss the future of Rebuild. In 2017, this governing body, along with Mayor Kenny, made history, taking bold action by creating Rebuild and telling Philadelphians all over this great city that they deserve high-quality public spaces. Rebuild is a once-in-a-generation investment into the lifeblood of our city, focusing predominantly on high-need neighborhoods. And through our work, we have met countless residents who exclaim to us that the improvements coming to their local park, recreation center, or library are not just physical improvements to beautify these spaces, but are life-saving measures to ensure our children and our families can have safe, clean, and ready-to-use facilities no matter their zip code. We have heard from folks like Dana Clark, a resident of North Philadelphia for his entire life, who said that the improvements that came to 8th and Diamond Playground gave them a fresh start. Or Tyrone Gross from East Poplar, who said, "This means a lot to our community because Rebuild came and got data from the kids and put their ideas into our improvements." Or finally, Coach Rob Davis from the Parkside Saints, who referred to their Future Field project as a chance to finally call somewhere home to play and compete. Rebuild is a unique capital program. Our promise to acknowledge the history of each site, meaningfully and deeply engage the community, and invest intentionally to provide robust and usable public spaces means the end product is a dynamic community asset that uplifts programming that's happened at our sites for years, but also opens the door to new and innovative programs that never had a home to grow before. For many of our sites, this is the first meaningful and significant improvement residents have seen in decades. And for our residents, these improvements instill a sense of pride and are a reminder that their city government is working for them. After passing our enabling legislation in 2017, followed by 2 years of litigation before our first bond issuance in late 2018, Rebuild was able to get to work operating via 2 delivery methods, using a project user, better known as a nonprofit partner, and Rebuild-led. To date, we have 21 approved nonprofit partners who lead a multitude of projects across the city. This model is proven to enable an even deeper level of community engagement as we work with organizations with strong community ties. These neighborhood improvements are vital to the future of our city, but unfortunately, the pace of revitalizing 72 sites across the city and investing over $400 million does not always meet the urgency of need, even with a nonprofit on board. Recognizing this need to support our nonprofit partners and build up our own capacity to move projects, Rebuild has made significant investments into our design and construction team, bringing on an experienced, woman-owned owner's rep firm to support master scheduling and provide expertise and support when our nonprofit partners need assistance. We've also increased the number of project managers on our team, reducing the number of projects per project manager, giving these talented individuals the time they need to thoughtfully and efficiently move their projects into construction and ribbon cutting completion. In sum, we've doubled our design and construction capacity over the last 6 months, all in an effort to move these projects forward and to deliver to meet the need. To date, Rebuild has completed 9 flagship projects. We define a flagship project as the full Rebuild project. 12 of our projects are either in construction or preparing for construction, with that number expected to continue to rise over the next few months. We have 33 projects in architectural design, which includes our unique and immersive community engagement process, where residents have an opportunity to shape the future of their site. And while that activity signifies major project movement, Rebuild does not operate in a vacuum. We understand that these sites are living and breathing entities in our communities that need attention ahead of their flagship improvement. Our first fix approach allows Rebuild to step in and supply critical funding, design, and construction support to ensure these facilities stay open. 50% of our sites have received or are receiving a first fix. At times, this might mean a boiler to ensure heat can function during the winter so a facility can stay open, or a sanitary pipe fix to make sure that restrooms can function. Other times, though, it's a $4 million new pool in Fishtown or a nearly $2 million new roof at Palbano and MLK rec centers, new sidewalks in front of CB Moore Library, or brand new athletic courts at FJ Myers Rec Center. These fixes provide critical, real-time improvements so that residents can continue to enjoy their public spaces while the flagship projects are in design, engagement, and construction. All the while, the work that's being done at these sites are boasting excellent diverse workforce and business participation rates. On rebuild-initiated contracts, 36.7% of professional services or construction contracts have been awarded to minority-owned businesses, and 25.6% have been awarded to women-owned businesses, for a total of 62.7% diverse participation rate among our contractors, surpassing our goals. And while the impact is palpable through these numbers, there is an unquantifiable effect it has on minority and women-owned companies. For example, Louis Tirado, owner of Tirado Construction, is a Hispanic business owner who has been a subcontractor on rebuild projects while being involved in our business supports program. Through these programs, Mr. Tirado's work and our commitment to diverse contracting, Tirado is now the general contractor on the rebuild project at Frank Glavin Playground in Port Richmond, affording him critical general contracting experience on a rebuild project so that he can bid and win future opportunities with the city and other entities. Most importantly, he calls Port Richmond home, literally building up his own community with rebuild. On the workforce development front, Rebuild's programs to grow diversity within the trades has seen over 50 Philadelphians graduate from our programs. Within our cohort, 28% are women and 96% are people of color. 80% of those graduates have been accepted into union apprenticeships or found full-time work representing 7 different building trades. I am proud of the Rebuild team for the work we've been able to accomplish since the program started, weathering rising supply costs due to the pandemic, addressing dramatically higher than anticipated needs and budgets at our selected sites, and organizing our team to be as efficient as possible to move these projects forward and deliver on our promise to Philadelphians. I'd like to thank you, council members, for your partnership and support of the work we have completed and have ahead of us. Your knowledge of the libraries, parks, playgrounds, and rec centers in your district, as well as the families, individuals, and children who use them, has been invaluable in ensuring our collective work in creating high-quality public spaces for all Philadelphians is successful. The need for these spaces is more evident now than ever. Today, we're here to ask you to enable us to continue this work by favorably recommending adoption of this resolution. This concludes my testimony. Thank you for your time, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony, and we'll hear from the rest of your team, and then I do have a couple of questions.
So, Councilwoman Chair, the team is here and prepared to answer any questions, but not currently on camera.
Okay. All right. So you were given the only testimony for the day for Rebuild. Okay. So I had a couple of questions. So what's the total budget for Rebuild right now?
Mm-hmm. The total budget is anticipated still to be about $425 million. We hope a little bit more over time as we continue to fundraise, and we have leaned heavily into fundraising.
Okay, so we're fundraising, but right now the solid number is $425 million.
That's correct.
And I know we've had this conversation before. And before I go here, I just want to say, Kira, that I think that you do a phenomenal job. I think that you work really well with the constraints that you have. You've worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic and have just really brought a level of, just honesty and transparency to what we're doing around Rebuild. So I just want to start out by saying that before I go in.
I knew that was coming, Councilwoman.
but as you know, because we've had some very pointed conversations about equity, and particularly what I'm referring to is the budget is $425 million, and the fact that it's spent unevenly, and that some districts are receiving more than other districts are receiving. And I could see if that was by a small margin, but I think that in some districts, particularly, I'll speak for mine, and I don't know about other districts, if you could give us a rundown of what is being spent where. But I know in the 8th District, we are not receiving $42.5 million. We're receiving somewhere in the 30s. So can you go through and give us a list of exactly what the spending is per council district?
So I think that, and I certainly understand, I know we've had that conversation in the past as well. And I appreciate also your advocacy for your constituents and your sites. And we certainly know that the need of the sites, across our city, Rebuild specifically, but across our city, the need is high. And we really tried to focus at the inception of Rebuild, and the budgets that were done even when Rebuild was conceptualized and before my time, really tried to address at that point in time, the need of those specific sites. So when the sites were chosen as part of this, the first part of the programming of Rebuild and the 72 sites we had, there was a budget allocated to each site. So that did mean that the budget per district pertained to the specific sites chosen. And at that point, that anticipated need, and not, as you mentioned, an even split across each district.
Correct. So can we get an idea of what was spent per district?
I would be able to, I don't have what's spent per district at my fingertips, but I would be happy to get back to you on that exact amount.
So can we put a pause then until we get that information? Because I just think it's really critically important that we have a sense of, where money's being spent and in what communities it might be being spent and in what communities it's not being spent. So we may need to pause our hearing and recess and come back to it before we vote out anything further, so that we can all be aware, because we have to go back to our constituents. You understand, we have to go back to our constituents and explain what had happened when we were unable to get the resources that should have been evenly divided. I'm going to pause for a second, and I see Councilman Kenyatta Johnson has a question. Councilman, Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Hey, Kara. Hey, Aparna. I just wanted to get an idea. I think I've seen you and your team at less the last 3 or 4 times over the last 2 months, and I'll see y'all Wednesday as well as relates to some rebuild projects. I want to get an idea of progress around diversity and inclusion regarding contracts, professional services, and most importantly, workforce development, just to get an idea of where we're at and the progress we're making in those areas.
Thank you, Councilman. Sure, I'd be happy to answer those questions. I think those are areas we're quite proud of. We've had a focus both, and you council members are very supportive of this and the enabling legislation. We have very, very ambitious participation goals for the contracts associated with Rebuild. The mayor also was very clear at the inception of Rebuild that our construction sites should reflect the city of Philadelphia. And so we take that very seriously. And we really are proud to report that at this point, our committed and contracted spend is showing 62.7% participation between minority and women-owned businesses. So we're very pleased, and we take it very seriously. We want to keep on that same pathway of positivity. I think the other piece we really recognize that would be critically important is that we have to continue to build that pipeline in this city. This has been it's been very challenging for us as a city to make sure that we have that we achieve these ambitious goals, and that we keep them and that we stay on it. And so to that end, we created 2 programs, actually 3. So 2 for businesses, one called Rebuild Ready. It's a business supports program, and one called EVP, or Emerging Vendors Program. So Rebuild Ready provides very direct, targeted technical assistance to firms that would be interested in rebuild work or other construction and design related work. We've worked with 109 businesses so far. The Emerging Vendors Program helps businesses who want to become registered and then certified on the city's registry as a diverse business get their certification. So we give them 18 months to become certified. We pay for any fee associated with that certification. We allow them to be counted as a certified and registered business while they work on a rebuild project. and that's up to a contract value of $150,000. So we're really pleased. So far, we have 48 businesses in that program, with 18 who are already certified and on our city registry, which is terrific. And then the last piece I would add is we also recognize that Rebuild is an amazing opportunity to open up living wage jobs for people with an interest in the construction industry. So we have 2 workforce development programs, one targeted towards people with prior construction expertise, and one targeted for people with no expertise at all, but an interest. And so at this point, we boast an 81% success rate. Our graduates are in either union apprenticeships, and we're working across 7 different union trades right now, or they're in construction-related jobs. So the goal around that is, in addition to driving the really critical work that we do across the city for our public spaces and assets, we are really trying to use this as a lever and an incentive to make sure that we are creating opportunities for Philadelphians that need it most.
Well, it's good to hear that. I remember, actually, it was Councilman Cindy Bass that held the process up when the building trades wanted us to move forward, and Councilman Bass wanted some assurances that Rebuild would actually do what you just actually reported to this.
Let's rephrase it from holding it up to negotiate it.
Let me change that. Madam Chair wanted some assurances to make sure that in order for us to engage and move forward in this process, that diversity and inclusion around contracts and workforce and all the rebuild projects would be diverse and inclusive. So I appreciate the report that you have just given that shows that we have made great strides in that area. I have another question. Obviously, the administration is coming to an end within now and the next 2 years. Well, I guess you might as well say a year and a half, right? We got one summer and then we have next summer pretty much, but we'll have a new pretty much administration that will be getting geared up next summer. So I wanted to get an idea of, are we thinking ahead to maintain the progress that we've made and really complete? You know, I will hope whoever the next person is that will continue this mission, because it's not about politics. It's about making sure that our young people and our neighbors have high quality parks and recreational facilities. And, you know, that would be a great robbery if, you know, whoever would come in and say, well, wait a minute, you know, we're not moving forward in this direction. So what does the transition plan look like? We can't guarantee anything, but what would that roadmap or blueprint look like?
Yeah, that's a question after my own heart, Councilman. You know, obviously we're full court press here. We know you all have been amazing partners, and obviously also are impatient to see the results of the work that we are pushing along, and certainly have a lot of work, especially in our really big sites that have a lot of need to keep these going, to meet the need, to expand the budgets, to fill the gaps, and to make these projects move. And they don't happen overnight. And our goal is certainly to make sure that we can continue that work. So we are hopeful, you know, just in the next year alone, we look to complete, we think about another 9 sites, and we look to launch another 9 sites. And then our goal in the next year and a half is, frankly, to have all of our projects in motion. We want these projects to be moving. We want community members engaged. We want your support. We want to make sure that the intent and the promise delivered to residents for what Rebuild would deliver is able to happen and land. So, you know, and I'd say beyond that, we look to have another, at that point, I think, you know, roughly speaking, you know, anywhere from 35 to 40 projects in construction. So the goal being really that, you know, there's a dynamic team. We've made strong partnerships with other departments and with residents and council members, and we'd like to really continue the momentum and deliver on what we promised.
Okay, and last, in terms of revenue that has been coming in, what does it look like in terms of the status that keeps us moving forward? So we're about to be authorized the second phase of a bond, and then we also get funding for the solar tax. What does that look like?
Correct. So far, the first bond that was issued in very late 2018 $86.5 million. We're about $43 million of spend into that. This, the positive approval of this resolution enables us to continue to spend the second half of that bond, and also then to continue to spend into the next bond issuance. So, from what we understand so far, the debt service and the beverage tax revenue has been able to offset the debt service of this bond. So we are continuing to move, and our anticipation is we may be able to even work with, obviously, finance to issue an even larger bond as the next tranche to support the work. And then I would just add also, Councilman, our team is really, I think, hustled along with your support and other council members' support. I know Councilman Bass has lent help here to make sure that we are positioning ourselves favorably to get state funding. Frankly, we'd love to go after some federal funding and some ARP dollars. We'd love to bring those home to Philadelphia to support some of the gaps we're seeing at the sites we're working on. And so far, we're really proud to report that we've raised $24 million, 14 of which are from public sources, 10 from private. We've got another 10 pending. And that, of course, does not include the William Penn Foundation's funds.
That's awesome. And my last question, would any of these projects qualify for infrastructure dollars? Because it seems like these are infrastructure related projects, rather storm water management, rather is rebuilding of actual buildings. It is infrastructure within that same context.
Hey, Councilman, I couldn't agree more. We think that we could have a strong ask there, and we would really like for rebuild to be positioned as part of the, it's part of our urban fabric. It's really, we're very fortunate. We had some members of the White House team reach out to us to talk to us about how we were launching a pilot program like this and achieving the diversity rates that we were, and how we were able to make a large capital program like this move with that kind of participation. So we'd like to take that, frankly, and continue to, as I've already said, keep that moving and use those dollars to help support us.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Kara. Take care.
Thank you. Councilwoman, I did want to, if helpful, come back to the budget question that you asked about the district budgets. I got a little help from my teammates that I referenced earlier, so they were gathering some information, so I would have it at my fingertips. Okay, so per district budgets, these were based on the budgets that were approved by City Council, based on the need that I referenced earlier at the inception of our program. We also, just as a reminder, we issue regular City Council reports, and each council member also receives their budget and the spend for each site. So just want to remind folks that we do issue that, and are always happy to share that information as needed. Okay. So Council District 1, these are approximate. So we have some round numbers here, but 18 million. District 2, 59 million. District
2 got 59.
District 3.
Johnson, you're doing okay. 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 District 3. District 3.
58 million.
Say again.
58 million.
58. Mm-hmm. All right.
District 4, 46.
Hold on. 4 was 46. Mm-hmm.
District 5 is 51.
Mm-hmm.
District 6 is 21.
Okay.
District 7 is 46.
46. Okay.
District 8 is 31.
Okay.
District 9 is 51.
Mm-hmm.
And District 10 is 7.
Is what?
7.
70 or 7?
7.
Okay. So obviously, when I look at these numbers, they're really all over the place, and there really is no equity. And so it is glaringly obvious to me that the 8th Council District, which is my district, is receiving a considerable amount less than most of the other districts. And that's totally unacceptable. And so when I look at the fact, what's the average? What's the average amount that's received, would you say, from these districts? Or even the median amount? It looks like it's around in the 50s. It looks like it's about 50 million, which means my district is coming up $20 million shorter than every other district. And I really do need an explanation on that before we move anything forward today.
And I have somebody doing math on the average. I'm not that good at math, Councilwoman, so I can't give you an average just yet, but it is coming. And I do think it's 39.5 million is the average among the 10 districts. And we do have one discrepancy, Councilwoman. I've just pointed out that District 4 is actually 53. So I think.
Okay.
And I think we go back to, again, working with those budgets from the beginning of the program inception. And as you know, Councilman, and you've been very helpful here as well. And I know Councilman Johnson also helped bring some funds, some RACP dollars to his sites. We have tried to adjust and accommodate to the needed scope as we've dived into these sites, because we've realized as we've moved, deeply and do site assessments, there's incredible need.
Yeah. So, I'm receiving $20 million in the 8th district less than my neighbor, Councilwoman Parker. And I'm receiving 15 million, it looks like, less than the Councilwoman in the 7th district. And, I could go on and on as I look at these numbers. And, this is like just totally unfair to taxpayers and residents of the city of Philadelphia, all of them, because wherever you go, you want to make sure that there are facilities that you can come to, that you can enjoy, that these are public amenities. And that is not what we are doing here. We are not supporting all public amenities equally. And it's glaringly obvious that, what has been allocated is inequitable. So we're not, I'm going to have to put a pause on moving forward with these statements today before we vote them out of committee. So, I think that this requires some additional conversation. And so I would like to recess this particular part of our hearing until we have those conversations and determine how we're going to equitably distribute the $425 million that is being spent on rebuild. Every neighborhood deserves these dollars, these resources, and the services. And even further, I have to say I'm a little bit insulted, not even a little bit, but quite insulted when I think about one playground in particular where we're getting a new building in the 8th Council District. And there was some conversation that we just didn't have enough money to do it right. So we were going to like halfway build it, or build it, without a floor, without, some of the lighting, or, the basics, the very basics that needed to make it operational. So we were just going to, build the building and then finish the inside later down the road. And we know what later down the road looks like in the city of Philadelphia for our constituents. So, we're going to pause on moving the resolution on rebuild. And we'd like to have those conversations and then circle back, within the next few minutes or hour or so. So thank you so much for providing the information.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Is there anyone else who has any comments, questions, statements on rebuild? Okay, and seeing none, and there's no one else to testify on 220-474, that resolution. We're going to conclude the hearing and now go into the public meeting on the first bill. And before we do that, I do want to ask, are there any other questions or comments from members of this committee? There being no further questions from members of the committee and no other witnesses to testify, I would like to ask if there's anyone else present in this hearing whose name we failed to call that wishes to offer testimony on the bills being considered today. Please raise your hand, make yourself known. And seeing none, hearing none, I want to thank all of the panels and witnesses for their participation today. We value your opinions, and I now invite all panels and witnesses to please disconnect from the meeting before we go into our public meeting. We will now pause the proceedings briefly as multiple participants leave the hearing, and I believe they've pretty much left. And this will now conclude the public hearing on the committee on the first bill, the resolution we are holding in recess, and we'll now go into a public meeting to consider the action be taken on the bill before this committee today. And so, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll and establish the quorum, reestablish the quorum, I should say.
Yes. Councilmember Gautier.
Present.
Councilmember Brooks.
Present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Jones. Councilmember Sanchez. Councilmember Thomas.
Good afternoon, I'm present.
And Chair Bass.
And I am present. And okay, thank you very much. A quorum of committee members is still present. And so I'd like to ask Councilwoman Gauthier for a motion on bill number 220366.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that bill number 220366 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Can we get a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, and I believe that was Councilman Thomas who offered the second. Or Councilman Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's cool. Either one.
Okay.
Both of us.
Councilman Thomas and Johnson will say, for the record, seconded the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that bill number 220366 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of this motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it and the motion carries. And regarding resolution number 220474 regarding rebuild, we are going to hold that resolution in committee for further discussion, and then we will respond with probably very shortly. We will provide to the committee information in terms of when we will be returning to hear this, but we will tentatively set a time for 5 p.m. today. So why don't we tentatively say that we will return today at 5 p.m. to hopefully be able to move on that resolution. And that being said, that concludes the business of this committee for the time being, and I want to thank everyone for attending. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Councilwoman Cindy Bass. This is the continuation of the committee hearing on Parks and Recreation. And we were standing in recess until 5 p.m. today regarding resolution number 220474. We will now call the roll to take attendance. Members that are in attendance, please indicate that you are present when your name is called and say a few brief words when responding so that your image will be displayed on screen when you speak. Councilmember Gauthier. Councilmember Brooks.
Present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Jones.
Madam Chair, I'm present.
Councilmember Sanchez.
I am present.
Councilmember Thomas.
I'm present.
And Chair Bass, I am present. Councilmember Johnson, I think I missed you.
Yes, I'm present.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We were standing in recess again on resolution number 220-474. I now want to recognize Councilmember Jones for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the Committee on Parks and Rec stand at recess until Tuesday, June 21st at 1 p.m.
Can we get a second on that motion?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Johnson, Thomas, and somebody else. Good to hear. That resolution number 220-474 be heard at on June 21st at 1 p.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and this committee will stand in recess until Tuesday, June 21st at 1 p.m. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you, everyone.